There is a crisis among men today, a crisis of identity, leadership, and self-worth. Too many men walk through life with one goal in mind: to be nice, to be agreeable, to please. But let me tell you something that may shock you. Being too kind to women is not a virtue, it's a weakness. And a weak man will never be respected, will never be admired, and will never truly be loved the way he desires. You see, the world has taught you that if you just give and give and give, eventually she will see your worth. If you shower her with compliments, if you never disagree, if you make your life revolve around her, somehow that will make her love you more. But that's a lie. If you don't understand this truth today, you will continue to live a life of disappointment, frustration, and quiet suffering. And by the time you realize it, it may be too late. That's why you must stay with me until the very end of this message, because what I am about to share will change the way you approach relationships forever. Now, don't misunderstand me. There is nothing wrong with being a man of integrity, a man of honor, a man of strong moral character. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about men who bend over backward, who compromise their values, who tolerate disrespect, all in the name of being nice. Women do not respect men who are doormats. They admire strength, leadership, and decisiveness. When a man prioritizes being nice over being respected, he loses the very thing that makes him attractive in the first place. You don't win a woman's heart by being overly kind. You win it by being a man of unwavering conviction. The truth is, women respect men who respect themselves. If you always say yes, if you never challenge her, if you put her on a pedestal, she may appreciate it for a moment, but in the long run, she will lose interest, lose respect, and eventually lose attraction. A strong man does not seek validation. He does not compromise his values for approval. He stands firm, he leads, and he demands respect. Not by force, but by his actions. And when a man commands respect, love follows. Despite what society tells you, deep down, a woman desires a man who leads. She may not always say it, but she feels it. She does not want to be the leader in the relationship. She wants a man who takes charge, who knows where he's going, who has purpose. When a man is too kind, too accommodating, too eager to please, he abdicates his role as a leader. And without leadership, attraction fades. If you want to be the kind of man a woman truly desires, you must stop chasing her approval and start chasing your purpose. Let me be clear. This is not about being rude, arrogant, or cruel. This is about being a man of conviction, confidence, and clarity. A man who knows his worth and refuses to be treated as less. The moment you stop seeking approval, the moment you start prioritizing your mission over pleasing others, the moment you start setting standards for how you should be treated, that is the moment you will command true respect. Men, it is time to rise. It is time to stop living in fear of rejection. Stop seeking validation. Stop being overly kind at the cost of your own dignity. Women don't want a weak man. They want a man of purpose, strength, and vision. So stand up, be firm, be strong. Stop bending, stop chasing, start leading. And when you do, not only will women respect you, but you will finally respect yourself. Many men mistake excessive kindness for strength, believing that by being overly nice, accommodating, and always available, they will win a woman's admiration, respect, and ultimately her love. But this is one of the greatest misconceptions that have led countless men down a path of frustration, heartbreak, and even resentment. True kindness is not about seeking approval, nor is it about making oneself small to please others. It is about standing firm in one's values, being unwavering in one's decisions, and showing compassion from a place of confidence rather than desperation. A man who constantly puts a woman's desires above his own, who bends over backward to make her happy at his own expense, is not being kind, he is being weak. And weakness, no matter how well-intentioned, is never respected. Women are naturally drawn to strength, and they can instinctively sense when a man is being kind out of genuine goodwill versus when he is doing it as a means to gain something in return. A man who is secure in himself does not seek validation through his actions. He does not fear saying no when necessary, nor does he allow himself to be taken for granted. He understands that his time, energy, and presence are valuable, and he gives them not out of a need for acceptance, but because he chooses to. A man who overcompensates with kindness often does so out of fear of losing her interest, fear of not being enough, fear of confrontation, and fear is never attractive. The problem arises when men believe that the more they give, the more they will receive in return. They assume that if they are constantly available, always saying the right things and never causing conflict, they will be appreciated. But the reality is the opposite happens. When a man does too much, he stops being a challenge. He stops being someone a woman can admire and look up to. He becomes predictable, uninteresting, and ultimately disposable. Women may appreciate kindness, but they respect strength, and respect is the foundation of genuine attraction. When a man fails to command respect, he also loses the ability to create deep emotional and romantic connections. Being kind should never come at the cost of losing one's self-respect. It should never mean compromising personal values, tolerating mistreatment, or ignoring personal goals to fit someone else's expectations. A truly strong man understands that he does not need to prove his worth through excessive generosity. He is confident in who he is, and his kindness is an extension of his inner strength, not a desperate attempt to be liked. When a man leads his life with purpose, prioritizes his mission, and sets clear standards for how he expects to be treated, he naturally earns respect. Women are drawn to men who do not seek permission to be themselves, who do not apologize for their strength, and who understand that real kindness is not about being agreeable at all costs, but about being true to oneself. Respect is not something that is freely given. It is earned through a man's actions, his values, and his ability to maintain boundaries. Too often, men confuse kindness with respect, thinking that by giving everything of themselves and bending over backwards for a woman, they will receive her admiration and love in return. However, the reality is that respect, especially in a relationship, must be earned by a man who demonstrates strength, leadership, and a clear sense of self-worth. Women do not respect men who lack conviction or who live their lives only to please others. They respect men who stand firm in their beliefs, who assert their values without apology, and who command the space they occupy with confidence and clarity. When a man overextends himself in kindness, he runs the risk of becoming invisible, as he loses the very qualities that make him stand out: his individuality, his strength, and his self-respect. A man who constantly sacrifices his own needs to make others comfortable or to gain approval has inadvertently placed himself in a position of weakness. And this weakness does not elicit respect. It only invites manipulation and exploitation. Women can feel when a man is not being authentic with his intentions. If a man is always accommodating and always available, there is a subtle sense of desperation in his behavior. This desperation, however well-intentioned, sends a message that he values others' needs above his own, and that he is willing to lose his sense of self to maintain harmony. This is not the foundation of a respectful relationship. Women need a man who is self-assured, who is comfortable in his own skin, and who respects himself enough to say no when necessary. Respect is not about being harsh or unkind, but it is about knowing your worth and demanding to be treated accordingly. Men who allow themselves to be overly kind in the hope of gaining affection or approval are often seen as lacking confidence in themselves. It is this lack of confidence that makes them less attractive, not more. Women are drawn to men who lead by example, who are strong in their convictions, and who have a clear sense of direction in life. These men do not seek to please others for the sake of validation. They live their lives in a way that aligns with their values and principles, and in doing so, they naturally earn respect. When a man is willing to stand firm in his values, even if it means challenging someone's expectations, he sends a clear message that he respects himself. And when he respects himself, others are more likely to do the same. In contrast, a man who constantly gives in to others' demands, even at the expense of his own needs, will find that respect is something that eludes him. People, particularly women, will take him for granted and will no longer see him as someone worthy of admiration. The key to earning respect is not by being agreeable at all times, but by maintaining one's integrity, setting clear boundaries, and demonstrating strength through actions. A man who stands firm and is not afraid to assert himself is a man who will be respected, admired, and valued. Confidence is the foundation of a man's presence, and without it, no amount of kindness will make up for its absence. A man who lacks confidence, who second-guesses himself, who constantly seeks reassurance and approval, unknowingly weakens his own position in the eyes of others. Women do not respect a man who doubts himself, because doubt signals instability. A confident man, on the other hand, does not need to explain his worth. He carries it in the way he speaks, in the way he walks, and in the way he handles himself in any situation. He does not shrink himself to fit into someone else's expectations, nor does he beg for attention through excessive acts of kindness. Instead, he allows his actions, his purpose, and his presence to speak for him. A man who lacks confidence often hides behind kindness as a strategy to be liked. He overcompensates, thinking that if he is always available, always accommodating, and never disagrees, he will be seen as valuable. But this approach backfires, because kindness without confidence is seen as weakness. Women instinctively test men, not necessarily out of malice, but to see what kind of man they are dealing with. They observe how he reacts under pressure, how he handles rejection, and how he carries himself when things don't go his way. If a man becomes anxious, desperate, or overly eager to please, he exposes his lack of inner stability. And nothing is more unattractive than a man who cannot stand firm in himself. Confidence is not about arrogance, it is about certainty. It is about knowing who you are and not allowing external validation to dictate your self-worth. When a man is truly confident, he does not fear loss. He does not operate from a place of scarcity where he believes he must be excessively kind to keep a woman's attention. He knows that he is valuable, that his presence is a gift, and that if one person does not recognize it, another will. This mindset creates an aura of strength that is undeniably attractive. Women want to be around a man who is secure in himself because his energy is stable, his decisions are firm, and his actions are intentional. A man who constantly doubts himself sends the message that he is unsure of his own value. If he does not believe in himself, why should anyone else? Confidence is built through action, through facing challenges head-on, through standing by one's decisions, and through cultivating a life of purpose. A man who is focused on his growth, his mission, and his standards will naturally attract respect. He does not need to demand it, and he certainly does not need to buy it through excessive kindness. His confidence alone will command attention. Women respect a man who is unapologetically himself, who does not chase approval, and who understands that his worth is not dependent on how much he gives, but on the strength of his character. Boundaries are the foundation of self-respect, and without them, a man will always find himself at the mercy of others' expectations. Too often, men believe that by constantly saying yes, by always being available, and by never asserting their own needs, they are showing love, devotion, or kindness, but in reality, they are communicating weakness. A man without boundaries is a man without control over his own life. And a man without control is a man who will never be truly respected. Women may appreciate kindness, but they only respect a man who knows where to draw the line. A lack of boundaries leads to a cycle of exhaustion, frustration, and ultimately, resentment. When a man constantly sacrifices his own needs to accommodate someone else's, he sends the message that his time, energy, and emotions are not valuable. He becomes too predictable, too easy to manipulate, and too easily dismissed. Women test men, not because they are cruel, but because they are wired to seek strength. They want to know if the man they are with is capable of standing up for himself, of leading, of setting standards. A man who cannot say no is a man who cannot be trusted to handle adversity, to protect what he values, or to remain firm in the face of challenges. Boundaries are not about being distant or rude. They are about knowing your worth. When a man makes it clear what he will and will not tolerate, he commands respect without having to demand it. He does not allow himself to be taken for granted because he understands that his time is precious. He does not chase after people who do not value him because he knows that respect cannot be begged for, it must be earned. Women do not respect a man who allows himself to be a doormat. They may enjoy the convenience of his willingness to please, but deep down, they cannot admire someone who does not respect himself enough to set limits. A man with strong boundaries does not fear loss. He does not operate from desperation, hoping that by giving endlessly, he will be rewarded with affection. He understands that relationships should be built on mutual respect, not one-sided effort. When he speaks, he means what he says. When he makes a decision, he stands by it. He does not tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or games. And because of this, he is respected. He may lose people who wanted to take advantage of him, but he gains the admiration of those who value strength. It is not kindness that makes a man attractive. It is his ability to balance kindness with firmness. A man who can say no without guilt, who can walk away when he is not valued, who does not bend to every demand, is a man who will always command respect. Women are drawn to men who lead their own lives with confidence, who set the tone for how they expect to be treated, and who never compromise their dignity for the sake of approval. Emotional control is one of the most powerful traits a man can develop, and without it, kindness quickly turns into weakness. A man who cannot control his emotions, who reacts impulsively, who becomes overly invested too soon, who allows himself to be manipulated by his feelings, loses his ability to command respect. Women are naturally drawn to stability, to men who remain composed under pressure, who do not let their emotions dictate their actions, and who maintain their frame no matter the circumstances. When a man lacks emotional control, he gives away his power, making himself vulnerable to being taken advantage of, dismissed, or disrespected. Too often, men mistake emotional vulnerability for strength, believing that if they express every feeling, every fear, and every desire, they will earn deeper connections. But in reality, unrestrained emotions make a man unpredictable, needy, and difficult to respect. A man who wears his emotions on his sleeve, who reacts emotionally to rejection, who seeks validation through constant reassurance, is not seen as strong, he is seen as unstable. Women test men emotionally, sometimes without even realizing it, to see if they can remain calm under pressure. If a man reacts with anger, desperation, or excessive sensitivity, he reveals his lack of inner strength. And when a woman sees that a man cannot control himself, she instinctively loses trust in his ability to lead. A man who masters his emotions, however, is unshakable. He does not let external circumstances dictate his mood. He does not become overly excited when things go well, nor does he fall apart when things go wrong. He remains steady, composed, and in control at all times. This does not mean he suppresses his emotions or becomes cold and distant. It means he processes his emotions internally and responds with wisdom rather than impulse. A man with emotional control does not beg for love. He does not chase validation, and he does not let rejection shake his sense of self-worth. He understands that he is the source of his own strength, and because of that, he never allows anyone to hold power over his emotion. The moment a man lets his emotions control him, he loses his ability to make rational decisions. He starts prioritizing feelings over logic, allowing himself to be led by impulses rather than principles. A woman may find it flattering at first if a man is overly expressive and emotionally attached, but eventually she will begin to see him as weak. She may not be able to explain why, but she will feel it. Her respect for him will slowly fade. The strongest men in history, the ones who commanded respect and admiration, were not ruled by their emotions. They understood when to express them and when to hold them back. When a man controls his emotions, he controls his destiny. He does not react to disrespect, he removes himself from it. He does not break under pressure, he stands tall. And because of this, he earns the respect of everyone around him. Emotional control is not about denying feelings, it is about mastering them. It is about showing that no matter what happens, a man remains in charge of himself, his actions, and ultimately, his life. Purpose is the driving force behind a man's existence, and without it, no amount of kindness will make him truly valuable. A man without purpose drifts through life, hoping that his good nature alone will earn him love, respect, and admiration. But women are not drawn to men who simply exist. They are drawn to men who are going somewhere, who have a vision, who wake up every day with a mission that fuels their soul. A man who lacks purpose is easily distracted, easily influenced, and easily discarded. He becomes too available, too eager to please, and too dependent on external validation. And in the end, he loses the respect of those around him. A man's purpose is what gives him strength. It is what makes him disciplined, focused, and unwavering in his direction. When a man is committed to something greater than himself, he does not waste time chasing approval or overextending kindness in hopes of receiving affection. He understands that his greatest asset is his ability to create, to lead, and to build something of value. A man who is on a mission does not beg for attention because he knows his worth does not come from others. It comes from his accomplishments, his work ethic, and his ability to stand firm in his goals. Too many men sacrifice their purpose in pursuit of relationships, believing that if they devote all their energy to pleasing a woman, they will win her heart. But this approach always leads to disappointment. Women do not want to be the center of a man's world. They want to be part of a man's world that is already in motion. They respect a man who has his own dreams, his own passions, and his own sense of direction. A man who is constantly available, who drops everything at a moment's notice, who rearranges his entire life to accommodate someone else, loses his value. He becomes replaceable because he stands for nothing. A man with a strong purpose operates from abundance, not scarcity. He does not fear loss because he knows that his path is greater than any single person's approval. He understands that if a woman truly values him, she will respect his mission, not try to distract him from it. He does not waste time proving his worth through excessive kindness. He proves it through action, through the pursuit of his dreams, and through the impact he makes in the world. When a man is consumed by his purpose, he becomes magnetic. He does not chase, he attracts. He does not beg, he commands respect. Simply by being who he is, women instinctively recognize a man who is driven versus a man who is lost. They may enjoy the attention of a man who is overly accommodating, but they will never truly admire him. Respect comes from strength, and strength comes from having a clear sense of purpose. A man who is locked into his mission will always be more valuable than a man who spends his days trying to please everyone. The moment a man finds his true purpose, He stops needing external validation because he knows exactly who he is and where he is going. A man who prioritizes respect over blind kindness is a man who commands his own destiny. Being kind is not a weakness, but when it is given without boundaries, without purpose, and without strength, it becomes a tool for manipulation rather than a virtue. Women respect men who set standards, who control their emotions, who stay focused on their mission, and who refuse to let their value be determined by others. The world does not reward men who live to please. It rewards men who live with purpose, confidence, and unshakable self-respect. So stop bending over backward in the hope of being liked. Stand firm, know your worth, and watch as respect and admiration follow naturally.